top 10 illogical places in the world. Have you ever looked at a map and thought, wait, that makes zero sense? Well, get ready, because today we're diving into the world's most illogical places. Mountains that belong to the wrong countries, buildings that defy reason, and borders that feel like they were drawn in the dark. You won't believe some of these exist. If you love mind-bending geography, strange facts, and stories that make you say, no way, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, so you never miss our next deep dive into the bizarre side of the world. And we're starting with something truly wild. A mountain so sacred to one country, it's on their national coat of arms. But it's not even in that country. Let's talk about the strange case of Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat, Armenia's sacred mountain. That's not even in Armenia. Mount Ararat is the beating heart of Armenian culture, identity, and legend. Its snowy peak appears on Armenia's coat of arms. It's in Armenian poems, paintings, and even songs. Armenians grow up seeing it on the horizon every single day. And yet, Mount Ararat is not in Armenia at all. It's actually in Turkey. Yep, one of the most sacred symbols for the Armenian people, both culturally and spiritually. It's located entirely outside of their borders. From the capital city of Yerevan, you can see its majestic white crown rising into the sky. But to actually touch it, to climb it, you'd have to cross a heavily militarized border into a country with which Armenia has tense relations to this day. Ararat is a dormant volcanic mountain, and it's massive. Greater Ararat rises over 5,100 meters, making it the tallest peak in modern-day Turkey. But for Armenians, this mountain isn't just geography, it's mythology. According to tradition, Mount Ararat is where Noah's Ark landed after the Great Flood. Armenian historians, as far back as the 5th century, believe their ancestors descended from Noah himself. In their stories, this mountain is more than just stone and snow, it's the birthplace of their nation. But here's the twist. After World War I, when new borders were drawn during Soviet and Turkish negotiations, Mount Ararat was handed over to Turkey in the 1921st Treaty of Kars. Armenia never accepted this loss. And while they don't openly demand the land back, the emotional and symbolic weight of that mountain still lingers like an open wound. Even today, Ararat remains off-limits for most Armenians. They can only admire it from afar. It's the ultimate symbol of national pride that they cannot physically reach. Imagine that, your most sacred place, standing tall every day before your eyes, but forever out of your grasp. It's surreal, it's poetic, and it's deeply illogical. Next up, the capital of the United States isn't in Washington. Yep, this one trips up people all the time. The United States capital is called Washington, D.C., but it's not in the state of Washington. In fact, the state of Washington is over 4,000 kilometers away, on the completely opposite side of the country. Let that sink in. The state of Washington is tucked up in the Pacific Northwest near Canada, surrounded by forests, mountains, and coffee shops in Seattle. Meanwhile, Washington, D.C., the heart of American politics, home to the White House, Capitol Hill, and endless breaking news, is on the East Coast between Maryland and Virginia. Confusing? Absolutely. So if you're planning a trip to Washington, make sure you check the map twice. You might end up with a selfie in front of a pine tree in Seattle instead of the White House. And now, a country that sounds simple, but really isn't. You'd think Bosnia and Herzegovina is made up of two regions, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Makes sense, right? Well, not quite. In reality, Bosnia and Herzegovina is divided into two main political entities, and neither of them is called simply Bosnia or Herzegovina. One is the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which includes both Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the other, the Republika Srpska, a Serb-majority region with its own government, president, and even police force. So instead of Bosnia plus Herzegovina, the real split is Federation plus Republika Srpska. And to make things even more complicated, there's also a tiny separate administrative unit in the middle, the Brachko district, which officially belongs to both entities but operates like its own thing. The result? A country with 3 presidents, multiple layers of government, and a power-sharing system so complex it sometimes makes Belgium look simple. So next time you hear Bosnia and Herzegovina, don't assume it's just two neat geographic parts. It's more like a political jigsaw puzzle, and a very delicate one at that. Next, a European Union country. That's not even in Europe. Say hello to Cyprus on a beautiful island in the Mediterranean, officially a member of the European Union, and often listed as a European country. But here's the twist. Geographically, Cyprus isn't in Europe at all. It's actually located much closer to Asia. Take a look at the map. Cyprus lies just south of Turkey, west of Syria and Lebanon, and only a short hop from the Middle East. By pure geography, it's clearly part of Western Asia, but politically, it's 100% Europe. Cyprus joined the EU in 2004 and uses the euro. It follows EU law, votes in the European Parliament, and is treated like any other European nation, even though it's physically nowhere near the European mainland. Why does this matter? Because it shows how geography and politics don't always shake hands. Cyprus is closer to Damascus than to Athens, but on the world stage it stands firmly with Brussels. So yes, the EU has a country that floats like Europe on paper, but sits like Asia on the globe. Here's something that will definitely mess with your map logic. You'd think the capital of Leningrad Oblast is St. Petersburg, and that the capital of Moscow Oblast is, well, Moscow. But in both cases, you'd be wrong. Let's start with Leningrad Oblast, the region that completely surrounds the city of St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg used to be the capital of the oblast, but in 1996, it officially stopped being part of it altogether and became its own separate federal city. So what's the capital of Leningrad Oblast now? Gachina, a quiet town about 45 kilometers south of St. Petersburg. It has a beautiful palace, parks, and not much else that screams regional capital. Now jump over to Moscow Oblast, the region surrounding the capital of the entire country. Here, the situation gets even weirder. Moscow is not part of Moscow Oblast at all. It's its own federal city, just like St. Petersburg. And guess what? Moscow Oblast doesn't even have an official capital. Nope, there's no legally designated administrative center, but in practice, most of the regional government is based in the city of Krasnogorsk, just northwest of Moscow. And now, a group of seas that aren't actually seas at all. You've heard of the Caspian Sea, the Dead Sea, maybe even the Aral Sea. They're all called seas, shown as seas on maps, and talked about like seas. But here's the truth. None of them are technically seas. Let's break it down. The Caspian Sea is the largest enclosed body of water on Earth, but it's not connected to any ocean. It's basically a giant saltwater lake. Same goes for the Aral Sea, or what's left of it. Once the fourth largest lake in the world, it is now almost completely dried up due to human mismanagement. But it was never a real sea. And then there's the Dead Sea, famous for its high salt levels and the fact that you can float in it like a cork. Sounds oceanic. Maybe. But again, it's just a very salty lake, sitting deep below sea level with no outlet to the ocean. So next time you hear about the Caspian Sea or take a salty dip in the Dead Sea, just remember, you're actually in a lake wearing a sea's name tag. Next, one of the most famous cities in the world isn't even the capital of its own state. We're talking about New York City, the city that never sleeps, the global symbol of skyscrapers, Wall Street, Broadway, Central Park, and pretty much everything big city in the American imagination. But here's the surprise. New York City is not the capital of New York State. That title goes to Albany. Yeah, Albany, a small, quiet city upstate that most people outside the US, and even a lot of Americans, have never heard of. So while New York City is a cultural and financial superpower, its own state government calls a much smaller place home. Another reminder, in the US, things are rarely where you expect them to be. And now, one of the holiest rivers in India, that's barely in India at all. Meet the Indus River, one of the most sacred rivers in Hinduism and a key cradle of ancient Indian civilization. Its name even gave birth to the word India itself. So you'd expect the Indus to flow proudly through Indian heartland, right? Well, not really. Today, the upper stretch of the Indus passes through a disputed region known as Jammu and Kashmir. India claims this territory as its own. Pakistan does too. The area is highly militarized, and the conflict over it has sparked multiple wars and constant tension between the two countries. So we have a river that is spiritually central to India, geographically tied to Pakistan, and politically tangled in one of the most fragile flashpoints on Earth. It's sacred, it's controversial, and it's one more example of how borders and beliefs don't always flow in the same direction. Here's a geographic irony you probably didn't know. Equatorial Guinea. By its very name, you'd expect this country to lie right on the equator. But the reality is more complicated. Equatorial Guinea is made up of two main parts: a mainland region called Rio Muni, and several islands, the largest being Bioko, where the capital city, Malabo, is located. Both Rio Muni and Bioko lie just north of the equator, so despite its name, most of Equatorial Guinea's landmass is actually above the equator line. Here's a surprising fact about Earth's oceans and poles. The Southern Ocean is one of the oceans closest to the equator. You might expect it to be warm or temperate since it's nearer to that imaginary tropical line. But guess what? It's actually one of the coldest oceans on the planet. Why? Because the Southern Ocean surrounds Antarctica, which is covered by a massive ice sheet. The cold Antarctic waters circulate in a powerful current called the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, which isolates the continent's frigid climate from the rest of the world's oceans. This makes the Southern Ocean icy, stormy, and inhospitable to most life, despite its proximity to the equator compared to, say, the Arctic Ocean. So here's the paradox. Even though the Southern Ocean is relatively close to the equator compared to other polar regions, it remains one of the coldest oceans on Earth. And right next door is the South Pole, the coldest spot on the entire planet. It's a chilling reminder that geography isn't just about distance from the equator, but also about unique climate patterns, ocean currents, and polar conditions. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed uncovering these 10 most illogical places in the world, don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want more mind-blowing facts and crazy geography you won't believe, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Got a favorite weird place we didn't mention? Drop it in the comments below. We love hearing your suggestions. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the world just doesn't make sense. See you in the next video.